While my mother's apple pie recipe and many others have inspired me, after 5 years I have finally perfected what I find to be the best tasting apple pie. My love for apple pie has allowed me to try many different varieties and techniques from numerous recipes and tastings, allowing me the opportunity to put together the ingredients I believe to be the best tasting combination for a great apple pie. Keep in mind, the better prepared ahead of time you are, the easier and faster the cooking experience will be. A few suggestions to making your cooking experience even better is to remember to lay your ingredients and utensils out ahead of time, review the recipe and steps beforehand, and most importantly, to have fun. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started making our apple pie. To begin, preheat oven to 400 degrees. Next, I will introduce to you the ingredients that you will be using. You will need white granulated sugar, all-purpose flour, 5 to 6 apples of your choice. I prefer Granny Smith apples for the sweeter and tartar taste. Both brown, golden brown, dark brown sugar. 2 pie crusts. This particular brand already has 2 pie crusts in the package and can be found in most frozen sections of most of the grocery stores. Also, I prefer the deep dish because I can add more apples and filling. In addition, you'll need 1 egg of any size, 1 stick of unsalted butter or half a cup of unsalted butter from a tub, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, and finally, vanilla. My only suggestion with vanilla is I prefer to use regular vanilla over imitation vanilla. It has a better taste and a stronger vanilla taste, but if all you have is imitation vanilla, I suggest adding approximately half a teaspoon to a teaspoon extra to give it a better vanilla taste. Next, I will introduce to you the utensils that you will need to make the apple pie. You will need a rolling pin or a glass jar to roll your dough out for the lattice, a knife, a pizza cutter, a whisk, a brush, a bowl, a measuring cup, a cutting board, and finally a small to medium-sized saucepan. I like to use the pizza cutter to make the strips for my lattice. If you do not have a pizza cutter, a knife will work just as well. It's just faster and easier to use a pizza cutter. Next, we will start off with our preparation steps for the apple pie. The first step is to peel your apples and slice them to your desired width. I remove the core. I prefer thinly sliced apples because they cook more tenderly and evenly with the cooking times I use. Once finished, I put aside the sliced apples and move on to the next step. I will proceed with rolling out the pie crust. By doing this, I open up the package of the pie crust, set one to the side. I take the second one and I remove from the pan and I start rolling out the dough flat with a rolling pin or a glass jar. I normally roll in approximately 12 by 12 inch surface space to make the strips. It does not have to look pretty. And then I'll take a knife or a pizza cutter and start making 8 to 11 1-inch strips for my lattice. These will be used to make the top crust of your pie. And once you start taking your pizza cutter and making the strips, they should look similar to these strips here. You could probably get about 13 strips out of this. And once you're finished with this, we can proceed on to the next step. Next, we will start with the egg wash. We'll crack 1 egg white into a small bowl with 1 teaspoon of water. We'll start whisking together until well blended, and you will then start seeing a foaming froth-like texture. It takes approximately 20 seconds. Next, we'll take the pie crust that we set aside in the beginning and we'll brush a light coat of your egg wash over the entire pie crust. Once your pie crust is completely brushed with the egg wash, we'll place the pie crust on a cookie sheet and we will place the pie crust in the preheated 400 degree oven and bake for approximately 1 to 2 minutes. This gives your pie crust enough time for the dough to gain a nice, pretty shine. Once finished, we will remove the pie crust from the oven, set to the side, and you are halfway finished and we can now start making your caramel. The first step in making your caramel is to place 1 stick or half a cup of unsalted butter in a small saucepan over a medium heat setting on your burner. We want to make sure we stir periodically so that your butter does not burn. And once your butter has completely melted down, you can then add 4 tablespoons of flour and start whisking together until well blended. Once well blended, You can then add half a cup each of golden brown, dark brown, and white sugar, 3 tablespoons of vanilla, 4 tablespoons of water, 1 teaspoon each of ground cinnamon and nutmeg, and then we'll continue to whisk the caramel together. Your caramel will begin to change in color and will get darker. We'll continue mixing until the caramel starts to boil. At this point, you can do a little taste test to see if you want to add any more cinnamon or nutmeg. Sometimes I add more to fit my taste buds. Once it has a rolling boil, it should look somewhat like this. And at this point, we will continue to whisk for an additional 30 seconds. Once the 30 seconds is up, we'll remove the pan from the burner and we'll start putting your pie together. Now, what we need is to take the pie crust that we set aside and take all the sliced apples that you have and put them inside the pie crust. Once you have done this, we'll take the caramel you just finished making and we'll pour directly over the top of the apples. There's no need to stir the caramel. The cooking process will do the work for you. Next, and the final step to preparing your apple pie is to begin placing your pre-made strips of dough and placing them 1 inch apart from one another, crisscrossing every other one in the opposite direction. If some pieces are too long, we can use a pizza cutter or knife to cut it shorter, to make it shorter, and if they're too short, we'll just have to roll out the dough a little more and then place them on top. You can cut to make shorter or roll the dough out. Lightly brush the top when you're finished with the remaining egg wash. After you have added the egg wash, you may add an optional, it's up to you, a little bit of a sprinkle of the dusting of cinnamon and sugar. Just a light mixture. I like to add it for flavor and I believe it gives the pie a prettier appearance. Once you're finished with this, you have made your apple pie. The last step is baking the apple pie. Now, you will take your apple pie and you will put on a cookie sheet and put it in the oven at the 400 degrees and bake for 10 minutes. I like to have a cookie sheet underneath the pie just in case the caramel spills over, it's less messy. Once the 10 minutes is up, you want to immediately decrease the oven's temperature to 350 degrees and bake for an additional 38 minutes or until the pie crust has reached a deep golden brown in color. Once this has happened and you've reached that color or the 38 minutes is up, you have finished your apple pie. I suggest setting it to the side for at least 30 minutes before serving so it sets well and is not so hot for people to eat. Congratulations, you have made your first apple pie